Day 17, Genesis chapter 15, 16, 17, and 18. This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir. At this point, Abram is old, childless, and discouraged. Everything around him says his situation is impossible, yet God speaks a different reality. God tells him, "What you see is not all there is." Even when your life doesn't match your expectations, God is still writing your story because God's timing is not just about you, it's also about what He is preparing in the world around you. Sometimes the delay is not because you are unworthy or unprepared. Sometimes God is aligning nations, people, systems, and circumstances. Sometimes He is waiting for the right moment, when everything He planned will fit perfectly. Then comes Sarai, tired, aging, frustrated, waiting on a promise that feels impossible. She tries to help God. She gives Hagar, her Egyptian slave, to Abram so they can build a family. And then suddenly, exactly what Sarai asked for happens. Hagar becomes pregnant, but instead of joy, everything spirals: jealousy, resentment, anger, blame. When we force our own solutions, we often create situations we then ask God to fix. Sarai was hurting, not because God failed, but because she tried to speed up His process. And Abram, instead of guiding the household in wisdom, stepped back and allowed the pressure to crush the peace. Hagar, feeling mistreated, runs away into the desert, a place of hopelessness, heat, and loneliness. But God shows up. Hagar is alone, pregnant, rejected, and afraid. She has nothing but her pain. And it is here that God speaks to her. Not in Abram's tent, not in a place of comfort, not in a place of power, but in the wilderness. And Hagar gives God a name. "You are the God who sees me," she says. "I have now seen the one who sees me." This is a transformative moment. God does His greatest work in the places we thought were our endings. He sees the victim. He sees the rejected. He sees the misunderstood. He sees the people who are blamed for things they didn't cause. He sees the ones who are suffering silently. You are not invisible to God. 13 years pass. 13 years of silence. 13 years of living with consequences. Abram is now 99 years old, and God appears again to reaffirm His covenant. He changes Abram's name to Abraham and Sarai's name to Sarah, a sign of new identity and new beginnings. God says, "I will make you very fruitful. Nations and kings will come from you." But then God gives a command about circumcision, a difficult, painful, personal sign of commitment. And He warns, "Any uncircumcised male will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant." God's promises require our participation. Circumcision is symbolic of discipline, sacrifice, personal responsibility, commitment, obedience, even when it is uncomfortable. You cannot enter a new season with old habits. If you want the blessing, you must make the cuts. Cut laziness, toxic habits, unhealthy relationships, dishonesty, inconsistency, spiritual coldness. God will make you fruitful, but you must make room for the fruit. Next, Abraham receives 3 mysterious visitors, showing hospitality, honor, and humility. In return, God delivers a promise that sounds unbelievable. Sarah hears it and laughs, a laugh mixed with disbelief, pain, and cynicism. Sometimes after years of disappointment, our hearts harden. We stop believing anything good can still happen. But God responds with one of the most powerful statements in the entire Bible. Is anything too hard for the Lord? Faith wakes up when we remember who God is, not what we see. You may not see the possibility, but God sees the timeline. You may think it is too late, but God works outside clocks and calendars. Pause and ask yourself, what dreams have I buried because they seem impossible? What prayers have I stopped praying? What promises have I given up on? God is still able. Lastly, God reveals that Sodom's wickedness is beyond remedy and judgment is coming. But Abraham does something shocking. He negotiates with God. He keeps pressing. What if there are 50 righteous? What if there are 45? What if there are 40? What if there are 30? What if there are 20? What if only 10? He pleads until God says, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." Abraham was blessed not just because he believed God, but because he cared about others. He used his relationship with God not for selfish gain, but for intercession. In a world that grows more self-centered every year, Abraham models empathy, compassion, justice, courage to pray for others, willingness to stand in the gap. Who are you praying for? Who are you standing in the gap for? Whose life could God change because you interceded? This year, walk in the confidence knowing that you are seen, you are remembered, you are valued, and nothing is too hard for the Lord.